We're live.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Conrado Guerrero, President of SEIU Local 99. Welcome to our meeting for March, our regional meeting. Thank you all for joining us. Hope everybody who is off this week is enjoying their time off. And for us that are still at work, hopefully you're able to take Friday off. Before we start, I want to let everybody know that there's a simultaneous Spanish language interpretation of this meeting. If you would like to hear the meeting in Spanish, please click on the interpretation tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select Spanish. It looks like a little globe on top of it. Okay, also, if you have questions during the meeting, you can type them in the Q&A. Organizers will be responding to some of your questions directly on the question and answers. We won't be able to get to everybody's question during the meeting, but if we are not able to address your question today, an organizer will be following up with you. And for those that are on the phone, you can also send your questions by submitting an inquiry form from our website at seiu99.org/inquiry, and an organizer will follow up with you. Next, we'll hear from our Local 99 Executive Director, Max Arias. Max.
Thank you, Conrado. Good afternoon or evening, sisters and brothers. My name is Max Arias, as you know, elected Executive Director. I was reminiscing today because this morning, spent the morning at 5 a.m., started at 5 a.m. with Brother Tony. We're there at the Pico Rivera warehouse where President Kelly Gomez from LAUSD came to visit the workers because our members, as you know, all of you, have been working hard throughout the pandemic and ensuring, in this case, in the warehouse, ensuring that meals are delivered and supplies are delivered, and cleaning supplies, PPE, etc. And I was just reminiscing because today, this month is my 6th-year anniversary with the local as your executive director. And I was just, the first action that we took when I started here, the first action that we took was at the Pico Rivera warehouse, where there was a picket in 2015 because the boss was messing too much with our members. So we had a conversation, and that's where I remember our members of Pico Rivera started realizing it's about empowering ourselves, organizing ourselves, and taking on the boss to achieve, respect and dignity. And then after they did, just started everywhere, at every school site. Remember reminiscing about us in LAUSD the first time we were bargaining the contract when I was a negotiator around, how you threatened with strike and almost went on strike, unheard of, right? And more when family childcare providers did not have yet collective bargaining rights, and Brown was vetoing, and we kept going, and we got that election, right? It's just really reminiscing. But, that leads us to COVID, which started last year. And all of you have been working hard to ensure that society continues to function. Actually, I mean that. I mean that the last safety net seems to be K-12 family childcare providers, actually K-14 and family childcare providers. Without our schools, there would be so many hungry. And this morning, I got to see the line again that many of you get to see every morning in different schools, the need of the families that you so heroically keep supporting. And I want to acknowledge the fight that we've had to ensure appropriate safety, right? It's been difficult in many locations. It seems like the employers, as always, are out to figure out how to, make their lives easier by messing with you. But I'm really proud how you stood up in many situations. LACCD was not getting PPE, and they stood up and struck almost for one day. Same with LAUSD pushing back on also the safety, family childcare providers pushing on the state to ensure they have the appropriate equipment, and so on and so on. And we've won many things together. We won that, stipend, first $3.50 and now $5 an hour LAUSD for essential workers, and that's the right thing for LAUSD to keep doing. But we're still fighting in many other jurisdictions, and we will continue to fight until we know it's just, right? So leads me to where we are now. I just want to share with you some of the wins that recognize you, and these are your wins. These have been done through you taking action, through our committees. I've been negotiating with some of you in some of these committees, We've been working hard, all of the officers or member leaders who, are leading these committees, such as Conrado, for example, here, who led on the first. I want to share the one of the latest things that happened. As you know, in LAUSD, the schools are staffed at 40% of what we need to be clean. And so now that COVID is coming up, right, there need to be more people to support the schools being clean in every jurisdiction, not just LAUSD, by the way, but this is an example at LAUSD. And President Conrado led on this too, ensuring that we secured the hiring of new temporary positions for building and ground workers at LAUSD. And I made sure, we made sure to stop the subcontracting as much as possible, and these positions be hopefully turning into permanent positions, because clean schools are important. You would agree, I think, every day, not just during the pandemics. Also at the table, LAUSD, we won a waiver on vacation caps. Remember how you've been capped on vacations? Well, we got it at least for the 21-2022 school year. That's something we won during the pandemic, but it will continue. That means that you won't have caps on your vacation. You will keep accumulating. And as always, we'll continue to keep pushing to ensure that you can take the vacations in the time when you need to take them. Also, there's new job opportunities for after-school workers and other LAUSD UNG members. There's more hours. There's also an expansion of hours that we have to fight for, but it's already given by the state. For paraprofessionals, we fought for that, right? Over there in Sacramento. Push for that to happen. Emergency sick leave, again, LAUSD workers and others in this case, because it just passed the state, will not have to use their benefited time. And in LAUSD, we got them to go retroactive to December 1, 2020. So if you use your benefited time from December 1, 2020 till now, your bank should be replenished, and you just need to let your steward or rep know if that's not happened. Members of Ventura Community College District just won a $500 pandemic stipend. Members of LACCD working on the front lines just won a $1,000 pandemic stipend. And we will keep fighting there to get more. Members at Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District have not given up, and we will continue to push not only for the stipend, some hero pay, but also to continue to fight to achieve equity, and that they respect all people, no matter what people look like, because there is a systemic racist problem there. Family childcare providers want an increased stipend and paid closure days, and those checks should be coming soon. It takes the state forever to do things, and we keep pushing them at the table. But as you know, you should feel proud, because your actions and the actions of sisters and brothers made sure that the state actually listened finally and started doing these things. And there's more coming. We're still fighting for the first contract and have made some exciting proposals around reimbursement rates being higher, around the providers needing also to have access to healthcare and retirement and other things that workers need to have. And through the work of Local 99, we ensure that education workers, including family childcare providers, were prioritized in the vaccine distribution, and also ensure that that was not mandatory, but that means that people are not going to be punished or mandated or obligated to do this, but to ensure that you're not forgotten and that you're there at the line. These are just some of the highlights. I'm sure here in this call, many of you have led on many things, and it'll be great when we can again share a room and talk about it, right? And you're going to hear about more and more gains that we've been leading on at the local as you hear throughout right now this program, because there's a lot more for every jurisdiction. We know when our communities of color were disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, the results of systemic racism were clear in the high infection rate, death rate, and also among Blacks and Latinos. And the biggest economic losses happened amongst the Black and Brown community. It's not over. We need to keep fighting. Right now, the goal is to organize in unity and watch each other's back. Nothing is perfect, right? We are imperfect organizations because we are made of humans, and humans are imperfect. But by gosh, man, we're really pushing hard. And right now is not the time to fall asleep at the wheel. It's time to continue to organize and unite to ensure that we return as safe as condition as possible. That means keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open, making sure you make that quick call when you see unsafe conditions to your steward, to the union hall, because we've set up a system so that we can immediately be able to address some of these issues. If you're, for example, an LAUSD and you are on a work site, those work sites have compliance committees, and you have the right to be part of that compliance committee. So I encourage all of us to learn as this is developing. In every jurisdiction, we are at the table. Your committee with member-led committees at every table. I am supporting the table LAUSD, the committee that's right here, as well as some folks here, and childcare, and so on. There's a lot of other committees. So we need to stay vigilant and continue to stay informed. And I want to reiterate, staying informed is important. So keep coming to these meetings, encourage others to come to these meetings. And in between meetings, let's stay in touch, look at the website, look at the social media page, and let's stay informed. Let's be ready to take action if there's unsafe conditions, because we have to stand up for each other and with each other in unity. So now we're gonna pass it on, because this pandemic also led to other things. For example, a surge of attack on our Asian sisters and brothers. Unacceptable, unacceptable, unacceptable. So our union has already been a part of the campaign to stop Asian hate. So here to share more about this campaign and how you right there, all of us, can participate in pushing back on Asian hate and all hate, because all hate is wrong, is Agnes Braga, our secretary. So Agnes, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thank you, Max. Good evening, everyone. My name is Agnes Braga. I am a speech language pathology assistant for LAUSD, the current secretary of Local 99 and the Southern California Regional Vice President of SEIU's National Asian Pacific Islander Caucus. I'd like to start off by sharing this video with you all. P, can you start the video? Thank you. So it's finally happened.
What you claim to be afraid of.
It's taken our jobs.
Kept us trapped in our homes.
It crippled our economy.
But it wasn't me.
Or me.
Or me.
Or me.
I didn't start this outbreak.
I am doing my part to end it.
So don't cheer for me as I start my shift.
Then yell slurs at me on my way home.
I put my life on the line.
To care for our families. To care for patients.
To keep our buildings clean and safe.
Even as we face financial uncertainty,
I help keep food on our tables.
So when the crisis is behind us,
don't say that I'm the cause of our problems.
Or that I need to go back to my country.
America is my home.
Our home.
So let's create a new normal.
Together, by demanding an economy
And a democracy
that works for all of us.
Thank you. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been growing and continued harassment and violence against the Asian American Pacific Islander community. According to the Stop AAPI Hate National Report, nearly 4,000 incidents against Asians were reported from March 19, 2020 to February 28, 2021. I'm sure most of you heard about the incident on March 16 in Atlanta, where 8 people were violently murdered, 6 of them Asian women. These attacks show that Asian American Pacific Islander communities are just as vulnerable to discrimination and violence with the rise in hate crimes. The sad reality is that all people of color are prone to these types of attacks because it's rooted in the indoctrination of the colonial mentality of supremacy, and this mentality of racism has perpetuated dissension amongst all people of color. Our story in history as labor workers has taught us that when we come together in unity, our resolve and voices are stronger to fight against everything and anything we need to overcome. In 1964, the Civil Rights Movement, led by Martin Luther King Jr., paved the way for all of us to have our voices heard. In 1965, Mexican and Mexican American farm workers, led by Cesar Chavez, joined with Filipino farm workers, led by Larry Itliong, in the first successful strike against grape growers. This strike led to the first union contracts protecting farm workers, which led to the creation of a state law that protected their right to form a union. This is the power of unity. Working together to reach the goal we all want to happen through cross-racial solidarity. Tomorrow, we are celebrating Cesar Chavez Day. Cesar Chavez is recognized as the labor leader who united the farm workers and someone Latinos see as a beacon for racial justice. Cesar Chavez understood the power of our communities coming together. He understood that as labor workers, we are pitted against each other because when we are divided, fighting for the scraps we are given, we can be defeated. I know as an immigrant, I stand on the shoulders of those who fought, got hurt, and some even died to give me and all of us this privilege to have rights and a powerful voice in society and in our work sites today. So for me, I am learning to make my voice as an Asian American Pacific Islander just as loud and important. In our mission statement, it says, we empower accountable and courageous leadership, that our power and effectiveness depend upon the active participation and commitment of our members and solidarity with each other and our political and community allies, that our strength comes from our unity and diversity, and that we must not be divided by forces of racism. So my brothers and sisters, I am asking for your help to make Asian American Pacific Islander voices be just as important by helping and supporting the campaign to stop Asian Pacific Islander hate and all the campaigns against hatred and all forms of racism. An attack on any people of color, including Asian American Pacific Islanders, is an attack on all of us. The key to our collective liberation from racism is through our cross-racial solidarity. The only way to be free of hatred and racism being passed on to our future generations is to work together and support each other, because I don't want our future generations to continue living with API hate, with kids kept in cages and separated from their families, and with more Black men and women murdered as if it was just a normal phase in our lives. I encourage you to sign a petition urging elected officials to take action to address structural and systemic racism and provide support to our Asian communities and all communities of color, especially the victims of all racial attacks. As we all have seen during the summer of 2020, our collective, united voices created change, not just locally or nationally, but globally. This is proof that when we stand together, the changes we make impacts the whole world. So please go on and sign the petition and have all our voices heard. The link will be posted in the chat. Thank you.
Agnes, thank you very much. Very strong message. I think you made everybody's feel what you our brothers and sisters are going through at this time. Thank you very much for your message today. I think this pandemic has shown us how much we all have to work together, no matter our background or the color of our skin, because we all have the same battle we have to fight. So together we're stronger, united that way. So as we prepare to return to in-person instruction, we'd like to get a sense of how you're feeling. For those of you that are going to a work site, please take a moment to complete this polling question. And also for the people that have been at work, right? So do you feel safe about returning to a work site? I'll give you a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds to answer the question. I'll give it 10 more seconds. All right, thank you. All right, so 76 of you say no, okay? And our next polling question is, what are some of the concerns about returning to a work site? Is it ensuring social distancing procedures are being followed, ensuring schools are kept clean and sanitized, access to childcare, job assignments are not clear, and exposure to COVID-19? And I'll give it another 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. And I know some of you can check maybe all these boxes, right? But here we go. And 81% is exposure to COVID. Next, we have ensuring social distancing procedures are being followed by ensuring schools are kept clean, job assignments not clear, and access to childcare. All right, thank you guys for participating in this. As you know, the situation with COVID is still fluid, as this information will be important as we continue to discuss plans with our employers. We have been negotiating with employers about schools reopening for in-person instruction. We've also been negotiating with the state of California to ensure COVID relief for family childcare providers and to make sure working parents have access to childcare. So next, we have an update on our talks and negotiations with employers. So we have our employee report back. And for that, we'll start off with Margaret with MAOF. Margaret?
Hi, Conrado. Good evening, everyone. So P, if you can put up the slides. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be starting with our early ed divisions, starting with MAOF Head Start. The bargaining team met on March the 11th, and we discussed vaccinations, reporting compliance with AB 685, which are the employer notifications that come to the union, and the reopening of 5 Head Start locations. As most of you know, with the MAOF group, the majority have been working, since the pandemic started, since they were categorized as essential workers. MAOF is not mandating the COVID vaccine along with our other jurisdictions. Sites that are reopening are following current guidelines, and MAOF will be notifying SEIU ourselves of any COVID-related exposures. During our monthly membership meetings, I have communicated to this group of members that if there are any concerns, if you feel that your work sites are not safe, I always ask that you reach out so that we can correct whatever may not be happening that's supposed to be happening. And our next general membership meeting is scheduled for April the 17th. We have a recurring membership meeting on the 3rd Saturday of every month. The information is posted on our website for anyone who has not received it. And we look forward to continuing discussions not only with the membership as well as with the employer to make sure everything's in place. With our options group, the bargaining team met with options on March the 12th regarding their vaccination plans and questions of ongoing questions in the field. And the employer notifications, we have been receiving those in compliance with AB 685, which haven't been too many, but we have been receiving those and able to talk with our membership about it. Options is paying employees up to 3 days of illness for any medical reactions that are hand in hand with receiving the vaccination. And we have also started recurring membership meetings with this group of members. The next meeting is April the 10th, 2021. As Zoom information will also be posted on the website, and we will continue to do outreach with these jurisdictions. The next employer report will be shared by Agnes for LACCD as we continue our report backs. Agnes?
Thank you, Margaret. Los Angeles Community College District, 1,000 remote work stipend. An agreement has been made with the district to provide a 1,000 one-time payment to all employees in LACCD for expenses incurred while working from home during the pandemic. This means that every member in LACCD, regardless if they work from home or not, will be receiving a check for $1,000. We still need to sign an MOU with the district and have the LACCD board vote on it before payroll can send out the checks. This means that we are expecting payments in late April or May. The members should know that we got this stipend because the district knows that we would raise hell if our members didn't get this money. Full contract negotiations. We're getting major pushback from the district on everything that requires the district to spend money. The district is projecting a $25 to $30 million deficit due to low enrollment district-wide. So far, we have only been able to obtain a $10 increase in the yearly shoe boot allowance. Our next full contract negotiations session with LACCD is on Tuesday, April 20th. COVID-19 MOU negotiations. We reopened negotiations on the COVID-19 MOU with LACCD to address the surge in COVID-19 cases in December 2020. After months of negotiations, the district presented our bargaining team with their last, best, and final offer on the COVID-19 MOU. This means that the bargaining team did everything they could, short of a strike, to fight for our members. Currently, we are working on some final clarification language before we sign this MOU and distribute it to our members. We will provide details on the new MOU at the monthly meetings via email and on our website, SEIU99.org.
Thank you, Agnes. Then we'll go to Compton, LACO, which will be going back to Margaret.
Thank you for that. Pia, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So for our members in LACO, most of our members continue to work remotely. Members with assignments continue to be provided with appropriate PPE and are adhering to the established public health guidelines. Once again, anyone working in those jurisdictions, if the employer is not following these, we continue to ask that you do a reach out to us. The next employer report is Compton, and for that report, we have Adrian on the line.
Hello, everyone. Compton Unified School District. Like I always say, Compton may be small, but there's always something going on. Bargaining team had negotiation meeting March 12th and discussed PPE and safety concerns, as well as the Safe Serve certification for food service department. As usual, they always take teachers in consideration and try to overlook classified. Fortunately, SEIU was at the table to ensure that all classified employees received proper safety equipment and that it was distributed properly. Compton Unified School District has a COVID-19 prevention program and safety plan, as well as a testing plan in place. We're also doing vaccinations for all employees that are interested. We also had a victory in Compton, thanks to SEIU. We stood at the table, stood fast. And yes, Compton Unified will now provide the Safe Serve certifications for all of our members, and it will be ongoing. Thank you. Compton Unified.
Okay. Adrian, I believe you're doing Hacienda La Puente also.
Yes, I'm going. I was just waiting on the screen. Conversations regarding extensions of the current MOU are ongoing right now with Hacienda La Puente. Linwood Unified School District, as usual, is all good in the wood. Memorandum of Understanding has been completed. Provisions include the following: 10 days of fully paid leave days in 2021. Agreement expires June 30th, 2021. Attendance incentive, floating holiday carryover, $200 per semester retroactive July 1st, 2020. Information was provided to all members on our membership meeting. Members want to start the fight to receive hero pay, and a field plan is pending. That's it for Linwood.
Thank you, Adrian. Then we go back to Margaret.
Thank you, Conrado. So our next jurisdictions are Montague Charter Academy. So we wrapped up our MOU that was reached on March the 5th, 2021. We were able to negotiate terms for the remote working, distant learning, safety protocols, and a transition into hybrid. So this was an extension since our last MOU had expired. So we wanted to capture those additional next steps. Information has been posted on our website for those who haven't had an opportunity to do so. All of these MOUs are posted. For our Pleasant Valley School District, we are, their full contract is extended through June the 30th, 2021. Provisions include no layoffs or reduction in hours, up to date, and appropriate PPE and COVID-related trainings and procedures are in place. Additional assignments are reasonably related to established duties for classification. So these are just some updates for these employers. Back to you, Conrado.
Thank you. Next, we have Agnes with our Santa Monica Malibu Unified Report, and Taz.
SoCal units, Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District. Next negotiations meeting is scheduled for April 16, 2021. Current campaigns include hero pay, bullying and harassment of members within our custodian department. TAS, the Accelerated School. TAS has stated it is committed to maintaining a safe working environment, and members are continuing to be vigilant in this regard. Conrado?
Thank you, Agnes. Next, we have our Executive Board Member, Marisol, with reports for Torrance, Ventura, and LAUSD. Marisol?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us at this meeting. I hope you're enjoying your well-deserved week off. Just wanted to go ahead and start reading the SoCal units. Torrance Unified School District. Bargaining team met with district on March 24th, 2021 and discussed compliance with AB 685, vaccinations, hybrid transition, security cameras, and wage reopeners. We have a bargaining team on a bargaining meeting on March 29th, 2021, where SEIU Local 99 is providing the district a wage proposal. Additional information to come. And Ventura County Community College District reopening plans limited to hands-on courses have been established for all 3 colleges with appropriate PPE training and assignments made for members. Whenever possible, members continue to work remotely. Next slide, please. Okay, LAUSD reopening of schools. Negotiations for reopening sites have been completed. MOU is posted on our website. Our members stood strong to ensure our sites did not open until it was safe. Employees required to quarantine by district will get paid without the use of the employee's benefited time. Paid stipends of $5 is in place for all members assigned to report to a physical work location while in non-hybrid settings. More details in the MOU. Employees without healthcare supporting COVID response services such as grab and goes, testing, vaccines, and childcare services will be provided healthcare throughout the duration of this agreement. The district agrees to implement an anonymous yeah, I'll get it. Centralized anonymous, thank you. Anonymous centralized hotline whereby SEIU employees will be able to report safety concerns related to COVID that have been reported to the site administrator that have not been resolved. Our agreement includes protections against layoffs and furlough days. Thank you. Good to see everybody. Back to you, Conrado.
And on this, we're still meeting regarding procedures, right? We still haven't gotten all the procedures for SEAs and HCAs. And yes, so we're still talking. The district still doesn't have a plan and we're still waiting for that plan. So as soon as we get it, we'll make sure to pass it on and post it. Next, we have Max Arias with our childcare report. Max?
I think, is Melissa gonna give it, Melissa, or do you want me to? I see Melissa here, so I was wondering.
Melissa, you're on mute. There you go.
I can. I actually have some slides I could share. Let me share my screen.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Conrado. Well, Melissa's doing, if I want to say something after Melissa, if you don't mind. Thank you, Melissa.
No worries. Alrighty, so our CCPU negotiations team has been very busy formulating proposals to address immediate needs of providers due to COVID and negotiate a strong first contract that addresses providers, families, and children's need and ensure that we stabilize the childcare system. So our first immediate COVID-19 relief agreement was signed into law via Assembly Bill 82. So it includes the following: a one-time stipend of $525 per child enrolled in a subsidized childcare program on November 2020. Funds will be distributed by the different states funded at some point in April of 2021. Unfortunately, this does not include the Bridge program or DCFS. Providers were also able to win 16 additional paid non-operational days when a provider has to close due to COVID. That's on top of the 14 that they won last year. Also, a work group consisting of the state and CCPU members will meet to discuss spending priorities for the remaining available federal COVID-19 relief funding. And so that COVID group has been meeting with the state. Actually, I think they met last week. I just want to really go over the priorities. So basically, we want to make sure that we support providers, particularly those that are closed and want to reopen, and those serving private paying families. We also want to make sure that we are waiving all family fees and reimbursing providers in full. We want to continue current subsidy program policies, such as not docking pay if families are absent due to COVID, more paid closure days, and reimbursing in full for school-age kids. We also want to make sure that providers have access to mental health workshops and resources for self-care. And so last week, we did meet with the state for the third time, and we were glad to hear that there's significant movement that addresses most of the priorities we had. So we're waiting for them to send us the written proposals. And so we just want to make sure that our providers are ready to make phone calls next week to make sure that we push the state to get this COVID agreement that meets providers' needs. And then for our full contract negotiations updates, so our CCPU negotiations team has already presented proposals around increasing rates and adjustment factors for evening and weekend care and for caring for children with special needs. We also put a proposal around health benefits and increasing childcare slots. And this week on Thursday, we'll be meeting with the state and we'll be presenting proposals around a retirement plan, professional development and training fund, and paid time off. So this is the update we have for childcare. Pass it on to Max if you want to add anything extra.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate the slides because I would have been jumbled to say. Yeah, just want to add briefly on this negotiations to just take this opportunity to share a little bit about where we might land here. By the way, I sit at the table as the chief negotiator working with a committee of 30 elected rank and file members throughout the state. And it's pretty impressive to see that committee, even though it's Zoom. But just want to share with you we saw the priorities. We understand slots. The increasing the reimbursement rates is essential, but it is important to try and push for all these things such as health benefits, childcare slots, pension, etc. But the goal is twofold. One, we need to ensure that the state takes action with what Melissa spoke. First, the immediate relief for making movement. And a lot of you have been lobbying the legislatures to that end, and that's good. But that only stabilizes us. Step two, we need to push to be able to get an agreement, a full contract, if we can, by June. That way, if we get it by June, it'll go through with the budget, and then we will have protections. Of course, we will not get a contract if it's a horrible contract. We won't do that. We'll just keep fighting for another year or as long as it takes. But there's an opportunity. So I encourage all of you, family childcare providers and sisters and brothers from K through 14 to stay engaged because in this stage right now, we are connected like never before. Schools are reopening in a staggered fashion. And without our sisters and brothers from family childcare, parents won't be able to make it work. Not only that, they have been, sisters and brothers from childcare have been throughout the pandemic, caring for the children of essential workers and many children of K-14 members. So just wanted to give that perspective that we can be done. We need to push to try and be done in June, but we will only close a contract if it has good rate increases. We're clear on that and other stuff, and you will get, because this is your first contract, I want to remind our membership, family childcare provider, you will get to ratify that contract. That means you get to vote. And if the majority votes for a potential contract, you will get it. So you still have more time. So let's keep pushing and let's keep fighting. And on the K through 14, all our college districts and our K through 12 and other, I just want to point out one thing that we need to be very vigilant right now. The districts are trying to cheat us. They're trying to cheat you by trying to bring in subcontractors under your noses. So you need to stay vigilant, you know? There's only so much an information request can do when it comes from the union, etc. It is your eyes and ears, your leadership, the ones that alerts and starts fighting. As for example, in LAUSD, in which it seems like the transportation department was trying to figure out how to subcontract a whole bunch of folks instead of giving the work to our bus drivers, sisters and brothers. But thank goodness our committee was there today to stop them, and we will keep fighting to change it. Just like that, I saw some workers this morning at SAT that were telling me that they're bringing, they're bringing like folks to do cleaning that he doesn't know who they are. So we are right now, in every jurisdiction, need to be vigilant because they cannot subcontract if that affects and takes away our jobs or our hours. So let's stay vigilant, and when we detect it, we need to go and start pushing hard. Thank you. I just wanted to add that, Conrado, for right now for folks to stay vigilant.
No problem, Max. Thank you very much. Lots of information. Thank you everybody for reading out the reports. And as we know, whatever we win at the bargaining table is directly tied to politics, from the school board to state legislators to the president of the United States. Elected leaders make decisions about budgets and policies that affect our jobs. So to share more about how we can make politics work for us is our Local 99 political director, Lester Garcia. Lester.
Hey, Conrado, thank you very much. It's nice to see everyone. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. I am going to share my screen here. There we go. With a legislative update for all of us. So for those of you who have attended the last few regional meetings, we've been pushing hard in Sacramento to make sure that the budget that comes from the governor through the legislature makes sense for our members and makes sense for the children that we are dedicated to serving. So during this time, since the last time we met, our Local 99 members completed 835 phone calls to legislators. So 835 of you made phone calls directly to legislators to make sure that they were setting aside money for special education, that they were setting aside money for our school districts, that they were addressing issues like cleanliness and things like that. Over 1,500 of you sent emails out to these legislators as well. And we conducted lobby visits. I actually need to update this this number here because I prepared it last week. We've actually completed 31 out of 33 lobby visits with 31 out of 33 of our local representatives in LA County and San Bernardino as well. That means that every single representative in this county has met with Local 99 members to hear our concerns and to hear our demands, and some of which you heard Melissa talk about on childcare, and some of which fall under the K-14 side of things. So what has it resulted in? So the early action budget highlights what we've been able to secure this year is $2 billion for return to in-person instruction. And this is based on, this is for K-12. And this is more money based on higher concentration of ELL students, low income, foster youth. And so the more of these students that the district has, the more money that they receive, right? So it's a more equity-based model. If you remember, the governor's original budget back in January simply said, I'm going to give $2 billion for anybody who's ready to open by February, right? We said not only is that inequitable, that is a segregationist approach, because the only communities that will be ready to open by February are those that have been least impacted by COVID, and those that have been least impacted by COVID are the wealthier communities, the whiter communities. So we were able to push back and not only get that $2 billion reallocated across different districts, but based on equity and a higher concentration for kids where there's kids that are foster care, that are low income, that are ELS. We were able to secure an additional $4.6 billion for our K-12 schools through 2022. This includes an additional $1,000 per student for every homeless student that attends a particular or is enrolled at a particular school district to support services, to support programs, to support that child and that family. We were able to secure, this is a big one, $391 million for the state, specifically for the hiring or additional hours for paraeducators. So this includes our TAs, this includes our special ed assistants, our healthcare assistants, all fall under this category. Now, what's really, really important about this money is that this is $391 million that is going to supplement, not supplant. So the difference is the district can't say, okay, we got this money, and now we're going to use this to pay for our existing special ed assistants, as an example. What they have to do is take the money they already spend on their special ed assistants, and this is on top of. So typically, any dollar sign you see, because of the way the budget breaks down, and because LAUSD is such a big part of the state, whenever you see a statewide education budget or an allocation, about 10% of that goes directly to LAUSD, because about 10% of all of the state's children are enrolled in LAUSD. So $391 million for the hiring of paraeducators or expansion of hours translates to roughly $39 million directly coming to LAUSD, specifically for the hiring and expansion of hours for our paraeducators. And as you all saw, and a lot of you have benefited from, we were able to push the governor to set aside, out of all the vaccines being rolled out in the state of California, making sure that at least 10% of all vaccines are set aside for education workers. Now, we've been doing a whole lot of pushing at the state level, but we've also been doing a whole lot of pushing at the federal level. We've sent texts to legislators from California, but also to voters in other states, in Arizona, Georgia, and all these other places, because we recognize that it's not just about what happens here in California, but what happens nationwide has a major impact on our state. So for those of you who saw, we're able to pass the American Rescue Plan. This is President Joe Biden's relief plan for the nation. Out of this, California will receive $27 billion in state relief funding, $18.5 billion in local fiscal relief. So that's $18.5 billion that's going directly to cities and counties, right? $27 billion that's going directly to the state that then gets repurposed into places like childcare and other areas. We have more than $15 billion in relief that's coming to K-12 schools. We have economic payments of up to $1,400 per taxpayer. So there's in addition to the $600 that was passed in December, also known as your STIMI. And so look out for that check, or that direct deposit coming through. The other thing that's really exciting about this is additional $1,600 tax credit per child. So if you're a parent, if you claim children on your taxes, you're going to get an additional $1,600 credit per child when you do your taxes next year in 2022. There's a whole lot more that comes along with this plan, including money for childcare. And we're still, as Max mentioned earlier, and as Melissa mentioned, we're negotiating with the state, and we have a say in where those dollars go that have been set aside for childcare. And so in order to encourage this, right, as you heard Conrado say in his introduction, we got to make sure that we stay on top of these things, that this money goes to all the right places. We fought for the money. We got to make sure that that money is spent properly. So there's still more to do. Even though we were able to secure additional dollars, we need the state of California to adopt staffing standards that ensure all campuses are clean, safe, and sanitary. So what that means is right now there is no standard that says you have to have X number of individuals cleaning a particular campus. They know, districts like LAUSD and other school districts or community college districts know what it takes to keep a campus clean, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have to invest in that staff. We also want to make sure we were able to secure about $400 million in special education funding. We want to make sure that that funding is not just increased, but it's distributed in an equitable manner. We know that our kids with moderate to severe disabilities need more attention. It costs more and they deserve more, right? And so in order to make sure that they get the attention they need, we need the state of California to provide that funding. I don't know if you all know this, but for your, a school district basically gets the same amount of funding per special ed student, no matter what the need is, right? So a kid that requires diaper changing the district receives the same amount of money for that child as a child who might have, let's say, dyslexia or something. Right? So we want to make sure that those kids with moderate to severe needs are receiving the funding that they deserve. Summer bridge funding. This is something that we've received so far positive feedback from the governor's office. We want to keep the program going. We're asking for more funding. Last year, we were able to secure $60 million on this. The year before that, 30 million. The year before that, 30 million. So all in all, this local has fought for, our leadership has pushed for 100 million so far on summer bridge funding. We need to push for more. We need to keep that program going. And as you heard Melissa and Max talk about, support for our family childcare providers, making sure that there's financial support. We've had over 6,000 of our family childcare providers in the state of California have had to close their doors. And we need to make sure that we have financial support. We have support around health and safety, including health and retirement benefits. And, I left off a P there, expanding access and equity for our children as well as our providers. Lastly, in order to make these things happen, we need to make sure that we elect people that are going to make the right decisions. We need to make sure that we elect people who are going to stand with us, people who are going to stand with our members, stand with our values. And so we have a town hall coming up tomorrow, March 31st at 5:30 p.m., where we're going to look at candidates for Assembly District 54. So for those of you who might be familiar, Assembly District 54 is in South LA, formerly occupied by Sidney Kamlager, who was just elected over to Senate District 30, Ali Mitchell's old seat. So that means there's an empty seat where Sidney Kamlager used to sit. We have a town hall tomorrow where we're going to interview candidates along with our sister locals. So it's 99. It's our brothers and sisters at USWW, our brothers and sisters at the city and county local 721, and every other local here in the region. We're going to interview candidates and we're going to decide who we want to throw our support behind, right? I'm going to drop this link into the chat so to make it easier for you to access, but make sure you come out, make sure you participate. Who we elect is going to determine where all of this money goes. They're going to determine what is going to be the priority for California moving forward. So please make sure you register and join us tomorrow, March 31st, 5:30 p.m. And that's it for me, Conrado.
Thank you very much, Lester. Always a wealth of information. Now we're going to open it up for questions. I know there's many questions, and we're going to take some of the most frequently asked that we received at registration and during this meeting. I want to remind you that if you are joining us by phone only, please send your questions through the online form on our website at SEIU99.org/inquiry. Organizers will be following up with you in the coming days. Also, due to the number of questions, we won't be able to respond to everyone during this meeting. But if you send a question by any of these means, you will hear back from an organizer in the next few days. We are also posting a recording of this meeting on our website at SEIU99.org, so you can review all the responses. Now, I'll turn it over to Blanca from our communications department, who will facilitate our question and answers, and I'll take any ice cream requests.
That's right. Good time for ice cream. Anyway, thank you very much. I have been monitoring the questions that have been coming in and grouping them in some of the frequently asked questions. So you may not hear your question specifically addressed, but we're taking them in groups. There's many questions that are similar, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. So to start off, first, there's a lot of questions about hero pay and differentials and stipends that have been in place during the pandemic. So the first question is, now that there will be both virtual and in-person instruction and all classified employees will be mandated to return to campuses, does that mean everyone qualifies for hero pay when we return? And I'll direct that to Pam Stevenson, who's been working on these different contracts.
Hi, everybody. So the answer to that question is we are not back in brick and mortar with everybody coming back. The agreement states that the differential stays in place while we're in hybrid. That there is no actual date for full reopening. So the answer to that question is yes, you will continue to get the differential for those that are returning to work sites.
At the rate of $5.
At the rate of $5. Thank you, correct.
By that, at LAUSD, correct?
Correct.
And the different differentials in the other work sites. Okay, so I guess just to clarify, because there's different questions about this specifically for paraprofessionals at LAUSD, does that mean that they will also be getting the $5 per hour additional pay when they
return to a work site? If you're not working remotely, you qualify for the differential.
Okay, great. Thank you. What about at work sites where we have not yet secured hero pay? We know at Santa Monica Malibu Unified, there's still a strong fight to win hero pay there. There's also a question from members at Torrance Unified regarding a $1,000 stipend. So questions from school districts where we're still fighting for hero pay. Will those fights continue now that we're returning to hybrid instruction?
Absolutely. We're going to continue those fights as it pertains to them specifically. I'm the ones that you named, right? So I'm assuming you're speaking about the small K through 12 units, and those all have separate MOUs, and those that have not received the hero pay, we have been bargaining and will continue to bargain that they receive that.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. The next question is regarding schedules and returning to work. There's a lot of questions about that. So do classified employees have to go back on campus, or do they have an option to work from home until the end of the current school year?
This is a LAUSD question?
I think it came from different employers. Again, I was grouping them together, but yeah, if you can address it.
Okay, so
LAUSD and any other employers where it might be different.
Yeah, I'm going to speak specifically for LAUSD right now, but the other classifications, please follow up. I'm sorry, other employers, please follow up with your reps and check our website, because those MOUs are there based off of what should be coming. For LAUSD, I'm almost forgetting the question. So the question was, you're going to get your instructions from your administrator or principal, so be checking your LAUSD emails. That's how it's supposed to come out. That's according to the letter that went out from the employer, from superintendent of schools. And if you find that you don't see where your assignment is, then please reach out to your rep, as well as reaching out to the principal or administrator that's supposed to be sending you your assignments. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, so again, for LAUSD, do workers have an option to work from home or go back on campus?
If you have an underlying issue, then there's a process that you have to follow to get that paperwork in, because you'll be the first ones to be receiving the remote work. But anybody else that does not have an underlying issue that would cause them harm for returning to the work site is required to return to work.
Thank you, Pam. There's also many questions regarding protocols and guidelines for special education paraprofessionals. How are the special ed students going to be cared for? It is not possible to toilet and feed a disabled student from 6 feet away, nor is it reasonable to believe that a special needs child will keep their masks on. Questions about what will be the protocols, or what decisions or guidelines have been set to ensure that professionals working with special needs students can maintain safety and social distancing.
So we are currently in negotiations, even though, for different classifications. We will be meeting again on the 4th and the 5th the 5th and the 6th as it pertains to special ed specifically, because those things we have been negotiating since last week, right? And district we have posed these very questions to them. They're supposed to be responding to us on the 5th and the 6th as it pertains to special needs. It is our position that they have to figure that out because the guidelines that have been put out there for the school district from CDC and from the public health department didn't seem like district even had that together. So we pushed back. So now we're waiting for them to come to us with the exact protocol on how is this supposed to be done. Part of our pushback has been, they said for the special needs children that are the most vulnerable, that need all of this assistance, they were supposed to come up with a cohort that kept them in a remote learning situation until these guidelines go away, right? But that hasn't occurred. So now it's on them to bring to us what that looks like. And so we will be having more information as of Monday and Tuesday. And as we get information, we always try to update our website. So the best way to keep up with this information is to check the website and follow up with your rep, okay?
I just want to jump in briefly. I mean, with all this work on most of these questions for LAUSD, and then I'll go on the others, it's fluid. And what I mean by fluid is we have agreements on safety as much as those agreements we're able to reach, far-reaching. But reality, what the district says and what they actually have planned does not match at this stage. And so what Pam is telling you, like our committee, our bargaining team, elected bargaining team of members at the table with Pam, and they're at the table right now trying to figure out a lot of these details and erring on the side, and I've been there with them, erring on the side of safety for all and pushing harder as much as possible and ensuring that there's, for example, the definition of when students come. We can't accept when only a few students come, for example, for the stipend to go away, right? Things like that. So what I encourage is to stay tuned, not only stay tuned, I will say something that's probably gonna, the staff at the school is gonna go, what? But we have to have another call. That's all I can say. After the next few meetings with the LAUSD, things are falling more into place. And I see some of our committee members are present panelists shaking their heads. So I would say stay tuned, but not just stay tuned, be ready for another one of these, in which there will be a more robust Q&A session, in which we have to make a few decisions. Also, not only are we going to be spectators and seeing, you know, what's coming up in the district, if there is a time when your committee of members tells you the district doesn't have it and we have to figure out how to not work, then we're going to have to organize on how we do that, right? Or if the committee comes and tells us, hey, it looks like as much is in place, but we have to stay communicating with each other. So I think it's important for us to meet before the 12th, because on the 12th, when the first day that they reopened the early ed centers in some elementary schools, we have to treat it as a reverse strike. What I mean by as a reverse strike, as an action, as a coordinated action in which all of us are as much as possible in communication. All of the reps and staff need to be alert and kind of close to the field, right? Going to the field, figuring out, watching and observing the safety conditions and being ready for a first hectic day. And we have to ensure a few things: safe conditions, be ready to report unsafe conditions immediately to the union, the employer, because that hotline with the boss, I don't know, we gotta also use our own hotline here. And be ready also to take action and go support those sisters and brothers that are in unsafe situations. So we need to have another meeting next week to prepare information and to prepare for action. And I wanna say that's the same for every jurisdiction. Each jurisdiction here is in different levels. Some jurisdictions, Santa Monica, Malibu, had already had some expansion of the students they serve. Others don't. It really depends on the community, right? The communities where you work. In some communities, the conditions are safer. In LAUSD, specifically in the more low-income communities, they are not. And you know that's not the place where it's going to happen. So we all have to do the same. With LAUSD next week, we have to have another one of these, maybe a 2-hour one, maybe a 3-hour one. I don't know how long it's going to be, but we have to be ready and united to go back in. I see a lot of these questions here won't really be able to be answered not because we don't know. We kind of know what the answer would be, but because we know the district is not doing what it has to do. So I'll stop now because I can keep going because it's aggravating at times to see how little how little importance they give sometimes to the safety and health and students. So I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you both. And just want to say that the last question was related specifically to special education, but we've also received similar questions regarding safety and social distancing, regarding preschools and early education centers, as well as, general education. So I think what we're hearing from both Max and Pam is that it's still in discussion with the different employers, similar to special education protocols, same with any kind of safety guidelines and protocols for early education, preschool.
But I add too on the bus drivers too, like I want to add transportation, because transportation is not in the public. You don't hear anybody talking, you all hear, oh, the teachers this, you don't hear transportation, but how do children get to and from school safely? We represent those members, right? So there's a lot of flux there. Your team, your bargaining team at LAUSD met with the transportation department today. They're going to continue tomorrow. They don't have any definite thing except that they caught a lot of irregularities and demanded for them to be fixed. So you got to stay tuned. Also be ready to take action so that we can also get safe transporting the students. And when Lester spoke about $300 and some million being allocated for more hours for paraprofessionals and teachers assistants, those hours are exactly the work of paraprofessionals to ride those buses to support those students, right? So that's something that we need. So I just want to give also, and just like in LAUSD, Santa Monica, Malibu, and other places who represent school bus drivers, we also just want to mention it because it's something that we don't talk a lot, but it's also right now a struggle. So thank you, Blanca. I just wanted to add that as well.
Okay, yes, thank you. So we also have many questions regarding, the vaccine and testing. So one we keep hearing is, will the vaccine be mandatory in order to return to work?
So, vaccines are not mandatory at this time. However, I do want to reiterate, because I have seen a lot of those questions, the testing is mandatory, but the vaccine is not. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pam. And then regarding, again, the vaccine, we have several questions about, am I allowed to be fully vaccinated before returning to work in person? So members asking if they need to have both doses of the vaccine before they're required to go back to work.
And this is something that we've been negotiating with district. What are they considering vaccinated, right? We've been pushing back on that as well. So we're waiting for that response. That should be something we have by Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And as soon as we get that response on what they are considering to be fully vaccinated, we'll make sure that we post that and update everyone.
And can I piggyback a little bit on that, Pam?
Sure.
Also, for those of you who are at work sites and you get vaccinated while you're at one of the work sites, remember they will give you benefited 3 days to make sure that after your vaccine you're covered, so you will get paid not out of your benefited time but out of MS time if you do decide to do that. Thank you.
But we want to make sure that people understand that's if you have a bad reaction to it, that you're covered
right
for 3 days.
Right.
That's what she's saying. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you, Ms. Marisol.
Sure.
Okay. So I know also this was addressed a little bit earlier, but a lot of questions about employees, workers who are at high risk, or perhaps someone in their household is high risk. Will they be allowed to continue working remotely? Or what are the accommodations for someone?
There is a protocol that's been sent out, and it's also on our website. If you are a person that is suffering for underlying issues, you're supposed to be assigned remote work, but also if you have an issue with a family member you're responsible for, I think they're dealing with that on a case-by-case basis. So still follow those guidelines so that you can receive the remote work. Okay.
Thank you. There's also several questions regarding schedules. This seems specific to LAUSD, where I guess there's reports that teachers are going to be working until 3. If a regular or a typical schedule for a member is not until that time, are they going to be required to work until 3, or will there be a change in schedules?
What we have, everybody is supposed to be receiving their schedules from their principals or their administrators to their LAUSD email. We have already stated our position that you are to work your scheduled hours. Whatever your hours are, that's what your schedule is. However, if they have additional hours, they can't mandate that. That's why they're called additional hours. So they can offer it to folks, but you are not mandated to do overtime.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Another question regarding assignments is, will employees be expected to perform duties outside of their job description?
I'm gonna say to that, this is why we're in negotiations. Our position is that you should not be working outside of your job description. However, let's be clear, since COVID, some jobs, the way you used to do them, do not exist. So this is why we're negotiating. And as they bring these changes that they like to do to those classifications, we're reaching out to those bargaining team members that represent you or those LMC teams so that you can review what the changes are. And then, so we don't make decisions on stuff like that until it's brought to our attention, and we are asking for that. We have asked for that. A lot of the classifications we have met with. Currently, even up to today, we were meeting with transportation and they had to pull that away because it just did not fall in line with what their classification was. So these are things that your bargaining team does. And as they bring that to our attention, additional duties, we will be informing those classifications so that they chime in and say, have a say in what that looks like.
Okay, thank you, Pam. You also mentioned that everyone should have received or be receiving their schedule, their assignment. What if someone does not receive a schedule or an assignment in writing? Are they just supposed to show up to work on April 12th?
Well, you would have to get something in writing in order for you to know where to show up. That's number one. So if you're not seeing it now, I would reach out to my rep to assist me with finding out what happened. Did it fall off because maybe they got the wrong email address or something like that? But that should be going out, because if they're expecting for people to return by the 12th, people have to have their assignments, right? So that they know where they're going.
Okay, thank you. We have another question about students in the classroom. What if none of the students return to in-person learning? Are we still required to work from the classroom?
That would be something that needs to be discussed with your administrator, because the point being is, in order to return is to accommodate the students that would be returning to the school site. If they're remaining remote, there may be an opportunity for you to remain remote, right? Because that's the school you're assigned to. But that's something that has to be discussed with the actual individual administrator. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we have questions regarding PPE. Are employers still required to provide us with masks and gloves and other PPE when everyone goes back to work?
Absolutely, and that's with all the employers. I'm talking about LAUSD across the board. If that is not happening, we want to know about that right away, okay, for any employer. The additional caveat for the LAUSD, though, they negotiated language, and this is not saying that it cannot be negotiated at our smaller K through 12, which is that there is a compliance task force, and each site, we have negotiated language that we can have a chair on those compliance task force for this very purpose, to ensure that our members are being, their safety concerns are taken care of, such as PPE, such as the protocols, things of that nature. So yes, absolutely, no excuse. PPE is a have to.
Thank you, Pam. And something related to that, there's questions around plexiglass. Are employers required to set up plexiglass to maintain distance between students and staff?
We're asking about what that setup looks like. I know that we're supposed to be getting a diagram just for the buses, but that is something else that we will be discussing on Monday. Like, what does that look like, right? I know on the buses they can't have plexiglass. That's against the law, so that won't happen there. But in classrooms, we do need to know what the diagram is going to look like, the cohorts are going to look like. So as soon as we get that information again, that's going to be posted, right?
Thank you, Pam. There's also many questions about childcare because, you know, parents will have to make arrangements for care of the students or their child is on hybrid learning. Can schedules be accommodated to address childcare needs, or what's being done to address childcare concerns?
So that's going to be a dual, because I want to make sure that I'm covering all the employers. For LAUSD, there is we have an agreement that they're going to be having supervision centers, which is the child care for the employees that are returning to work. They have also reached out to us to identify child care services for non-school age students. And so we have connected them with our child care division at SEIU Local 99, hopefully to go through Karina Care, things of that nature. But these type of services we should be posting for every employer, because I'm sure that it's going to be a question from every employer, right, with people with these kind of issues. So this is an ongoing conversation on how we accommodate our the members that work for various employers, but it's been specific for LAUSD, and that has been incorporated in the reopening plan.
So Black, I'm gonna jump in on that. So the same goes for all districts. There is an application called Karina Care, which connects you, and somebody put it here on the chat. Thank you, Melissa. Connects you to qualified licensed providers that have slots available, right, for childcare. And so that is one solution the district, LAUSD, has agreed, and then we want to get all the other districts to agree to provide that. But furthermore, we're in conversations with the district because, you know, I responded to actually superintendent when he goes, you know, childcare. So, well, the problem is the affordability of childcare because there's not many vouchers right now. If you qualify for subsidy, there's no slots. So it's a twofold question. First, it's the access that has been resolved through a Karina Care app and others. But right now we're pushing the district to put money into supporting you and teachers in this case, the folks that work in all the school districts to be able to afford the childcare, and also professional childcare, which are also our members providing the care that also need to fill the slots and work to do this. And again, we've been warning the districts for a long time. The solution was, well, we have places for children, but they forgot ages 0 through 5 in this case, or actually 0 to 3, but in this case, in the district, it's like 4 or 5 years old. They kind of forgot about that and now they're scrambling. Luckily, we're here to support. But again, I think there'll be more responses on if there was a stipend achieved, which is what has to happen by next meeting, and an update on how are we getting Karina Care in all the jurisdictions so that you at least have options with regards to quality, affordable childcare.
Thank you. We also have a question regarding adult education at LAUSD. It says LAUSD published all the dates for going back to in-person instruction, but the adult division was excluded. Have dates been set for returning to campus for adult ed?
The only dates, excuse me, the only dates that have been presented have been the ones that they have announced publicly. If there is something that is missing, again, I am urging everyone to go to your LAUSD email because that's where your assignments are supposed to come. If it's not there, please reach out to your rep and then we will figure out what's going on with that piece. But since we are in negotiations, we most definitely will be asking about that. I have that written down. All right.
Thank you. We have another question about early retirement or retirement incentives. Are any school districts giving golden handshakes or any other retirement incentives during this time?
We have had some of the smaller employers that have offered that. I think Hacienda de la Fuentes was one of them. That has not come up, and with the need for so many people to be working, I don't know that that is going to be at the top of their list, but I know that it has been discussed amongst the bargaining team a while ago, but we should be looking at that again. But I don't see that being something at the forefront of the employers' to-do list, considering they need so many people. They don't have enough people to accommodate what they need to accommodate in order to bring students back. That usually happens when they need to purge.
Plus, with all the funding they just got, there's no need to offer that incentive. Usually they do that when there's a deficit, and in order to make more, to not lay off people, they offer this incentive. So.
And I was just told, well, Manny, if you're on here, why don't you speak to it? LACCD has an early retirement incentive. It'd be good for you to bring that, speak to that if you're here, Manny.
Sure, I'm here. Hello, everyone. So LACCD is offering a early retirement incentive. They offered it in the at the end of 2020. They're reopening it again to get more participants. So if you're in LACCD and you're interested in early retirement incentive, please go to the LACCD website. I'll work with our communications department so that we can have a link on our website as well.
Thank you. Going back a little bit to bus drivers and school buses, we have a question regarding children on the buses. Will the temperature be taken of children boarding the school buses? If so, who will be doing that, the drivers or the assistants?
Absolutely, the temperatures will be taken. We know that for sure. The bus, we're in negotiations with transportation right now. We had negotiations today. We will be returning tomorrow. That is something that we have pushed back on, that it needs to be with the classifications that do that. But we haven't determined exactly which classifications will be doing it. But as it stands now, it will not be the bus drivers because the bus drivers need to be driving.
Okay, and I think this will be our last question. Will there be summer school?
I'm not sure, but if it is, we will definitely know sooner than later. I would assume that there will be, because students have been at a disadvantage for over a year and a half now. They have to catch up some kind of way. So I expect for summer school to happen. We haven't had those discussions as of yet, but as soon as they happen, we will be announcing that.
And Blanca, just to add to that, we were able to get some money through the legislature for what they call extended learning, which includes summer school. So the expectation right now is that that money is set aside so that school districts can provide summer school. As Pam mentioned, I think, everybody's trying to get through the hybrid opening first, and then figure out, if and when, summer school will take place. So folks, who stay tuned on summer school. I saw a lot of questions in the chat about summer school. I would imagine within the next month or so, we should know whether or not the district plans on summer school. So we may not know the scale yet. It depends also how many families are coming back for hybrid, how many families want to send their kids back in the summertime. There's a lot of different factors too, but yeah.
Can I just say this, Ms. Blanca, before you close off? I see over 281 questions that still remain to be answered. I tried to get us to as many as possible. However, as Conrado said at the beginning, these questions will be asked within the next 48 hours through our reps. And if you know who your rep is, you can always reach out to them and then they will respond to you even quicker, because they're going to be going through this list. But on top of that, if you don't know who your rep is, please go to the website. We have their phone numbers associated with where your regions are. And if that doesn't work for you, just call the office, and this MRC will be able to hook you up with who your rep is so you can get these questions answered. I hope you all have a blessed day, but I look forward to seeing or hearing you really, really soon.
Great, thank you. That will turn it back over to Conrado.
Thank you very much, Blanca, and everybody for answering the questions. So we are reaching the end of our meeting. Max, you have any closing words for us? Or?
No, just what we said last. We need to stay vigilant. We need to watch each other's back, watch our own, watch safety, watch each other's back, ready to report, ready to take action, ready to walk in together. So stay tuned, and I will probably see all of you again next week. Just stay tuned. That's all Definitely. I got. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Max. And I would just like to reiterate for us to sign the petition that Agnes posts on our website to support to stop the Asian hate. So please be mindful that we all need to be supportive of each other at this time. So sign the petition. I filled it out. It takes less than 2 minutes to do so. So please do so. Also, the link that Melissa posted on there for the Karina Care for childcare. Also, reach out to your employer and to your supervisor and let them know, hey, I'm going to have trouble with childcare. Don't wait till the day of. Let's be a little bit be proactive on that. So make sure that we don't have a lot of setbacks on day one. And Michael, I saw your hand up. Did you have something to say? No? Oh, he was saying goodbye. Perfect. Thank you. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy your week off for those of you that are off. And stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Good night. Thanks, Ronald.